if this exists, there's an allness, a oneness. This is what every great avatar has said. And they've always showed us the way. Follow. Do what I did. I'm saying, this is what they're all saying. I promise you that this is the case. So in all their teachings, they're saying, just do what I did. Right? So how is it that we can't see that? How is it that we feel so alone at times? So welcome to the grand illusion. Come on in and see what's happening. Pay the price, get your tickets for the show. The stage is set. The band starts playing. Suddenly your heart is pounding, wishing secretly you were a star. Don't be fooled by the radio, the TV, or the magazines. They show you photographs of what your life should be, but they're just someone else's fantasies. So if you think your life is complete confusion, because your neighbor's got it made, because you never win the game, just remember that it's a grand illusion. And deep inside, we're all the same. We're all the same. That was a song by Styx. Came out in 1978. That we're all the same. Do we really believe it? So, welcome to the grand illusion. Now, this is nothing new. This is not new philosophy. This was the topic of conversation with Socrates and Plato and Descartes. So Descartes came up with the terms res interna and res externa. Res interna is perception, how we see things, and res externa is how they are, the essence. So back in those times, there were relativists. So they would say everything's relative. Everything is relative based on my perception, so it doesn't matter what I do. I can do whatever because it's just my perception. So they would use that to justify any form of cruelty. There were relatives, lawyers, that would just work to get anybody off any crime by saying, well, it's all relative. You know, there is no truth, there is no integrity. It's just how I see it. Right? And Plato and Socrates and Descartes would say, no. There's also res externa. There's the way it is. There's the essence. We all have a sense of right or wrong. So every great avatar is not going to be a relativist. They're going to say, hey, there is a right and wrong. We have a sense of this. Okay, so as we learn more, we'll see that this is huge when it comes to healing. This is a course in healing. So, if we want to understand healing of ourselves or healing other people, we really have to get a grip of this. Because everything that lacks integrity, everything that we do that lacks integrity leaves a mark. And there's a part of us that just senses what is fair. So every time we hurt someone, the only way that we can make it up to the universe is by feeling that same pain. And we may not even realize that that's what's happening. Okay, healers that can see auras, they can see marks in auras. And they're just kind of waiting for the opportunity to come for it to be cleared. And there's like a lot of different ways of doing that. So then suddenly it gives us like a sense of fear. Oh my God, what am I in for? And yes, and even that sense of fear has to be dealt with and overcome if we're interested in healing. So we will get into that. So, but it's very interesting. So why is it that it's so hard to see allness? Res interna versus res externa. So what we're talking about is duality versus non-duality. Okay? So with duality, I exist here, you exist right there. We are separate. You're a different person than I am. Non-duality, we're the same. That's a strange concept. Right? So we will experience more of that non-duality. We will experience that when we're in the presence of people, that when we're in someone's space, we can actually feel what's going on with them. So now we're experiencing a little more of reality. A reality that most people don't even know exists. Because it's hard to see ourselves as one with others. We always see ourselves as separate. So the separate one in us wants to compete. Everything is limited. We compete for everything. We compete for love. We compete for resources. We compete for glory. And there's nothing wrong with that. It ensures survival of the species. Right? If there weren't a whole bunch of men battling for the greatest female, if there weren't a whole bunch of females battling for the greatest male, then a species will soon go extinct. So, there's a part of us that is biological, animal in nature. But there's a part of us that's spiritual as well, that sees a connection to all. Right? So it's helpful to get a real good understanding of this all. So people will be able, there's some here that have been attending the workshops, and they started experiencing all sorts of things that they never thought possible before. Where all of a sudden they felt guided by our connection to each other. Ultimately, that's the only place that's going to bring us any satisfaction. I used to make all sorts of money. Soon out of university, I had like 150 employees manufacturing all sorts of products in Mexico. I was on the brink of making a fortune. And something really interesting happened when I bought this house. Beautiful Lakeview. I was sitting there and I'm looking out the window, and all of a sudden I went into depression. Completely unexpected. And what had happened was I could foresee everything that this was going to bring me. I thought success is going to lead to happiness. I was programmed to believe that. And I saw everything. I just got a flash of the future, and I saw I'm going to be making more money because, hey, I'm really good at it, and I've got all these employees and blah, 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 and this is going to get me more girls and more fame, and this is great. And I went into a depression. How is that possible if success leads to happiness? How is it possible to be depressed? So it was really interesting, and it lasted for about 3 months. And then I was looking out the window again 3 months later, and I was looking at, you'll see, if you look out the window towards the lake outside after, you'll see that there's trees on both sides. And I was watching these cardinals, and they were swooping from one side to the other, and there were 2 male cardinals, and they were fighting. And they were fighting to the death. I mean, it was a serious fight. And there was a female that they were fighting for. And she was looking in to see who was going to win. She was going back and forth, checking it out, right? And, they were going back and forth, and it was like a fight to the death, and it was like a serious fight. But I was looking at it, and I was going, my God, they're beautiful. Look at how bright and red they are. That is so cool. Look at her. She's rooting for that guy. Oh, no, she's rooting for him. Oh, I'm not sure which way it's going to go. I was like enamored by the whole thing, right? And then it hit me. I'm like, if there is a God, he must have that same, he, she, whatever it is, must have that same equanimity towards us. Oh, look at those beautiful humans blowing each other up. They're so beautiful. They're so cute. They're so colorful. Look at them. They're getting all red and flustered. Oh, well. Maybe not with the commentary, but there had to be like an essence. The essence. I could see it was like the Cardinals. It was a real serious fight for them. Yeah, I saw that, but I also saw the beauty of it all. You see? So, right around that time, I started having all sorts of dreams. I thought I was going to be a businessman my entire life. And then I had this one dream. It was a lucid dream. It just kind of came out of nowhere. It was literally written on stone. It was like a gravestone. So if somebody wants to, you know what to write on my gravestone. And it said, heal others and you will heal yourself, but first you must learn. And I went, okay. It was lucid. It was clear. And I went, huh. And then I got introduced to psychics. I wouldn't recommend psychics because you don't need to know the future and stuff. And sometimes they can take you into astral realms, which every great avatar has said you're best to avoid. But anyways, everybody doesn't run into psychics. And they're pretty impressive. I remember seeing one, and all of a sudden she said, oh, you've got spirits with you. I'm like, yeah, who are they? And she's like, well, there's There's Antonio and Stefano and Rosalina or something. Anyway, she came up with my grandparents' names in Italy. I was like, ooh, how'd she do that? You know, so they can be very impressive. And I remember I saw one, and she was a bit of an oracle. She said, oh, one day you're going to be a healer, and people are going to come from around the world to see you. I'm like, yeah, right. You know, like, yeah, oh, yeah, sure. I was like, I thought I was going to be a businessman my entire life, right? So then a bunch of different things happened. Not only the epiphany with the cardinals, but a bunch of them. You know, and what I realized was I spent a lot of time on my own back then because I was trying to process it all. But it was really interesting. I started letting all the animals in my house. You know, the raccoons, the squirrels. Squirrels would just come in and like grab an avocado and leave, and I'd say, all right, see you tomorrow. They were cute, you know? But I was still judging humans, you see? So when I realized that too, I was like, oh my God, look at that. I'm judging myself, I'm judging all humans, right? I was judging everything. And I was like, okay, I could treat ourselves just like pets and animals. You know, we don't judge squirrels. I remember there was this one fat squirrel. There was an old lady living next door, and she would pour out like a whole bag of peanuts all at once, right? Rather than feed them. And there was one squirrel that would eat them all. And there were all these other squirrels trying. And he would like chase them all away. He was the one big fat squirrel, you know? But it was hilarious, you know, to watch it all. So we don't judge that. Imagine if a human did that. Oh my God, we'd throw them in jail. Right? So I realized the judgment had to be let go, right? So and then fast forward a few years, I started being guided. And I started following the guide. What had happened, and I won't go into it, but I screwed up my life so badly that I didn't know what to do. And it was like I was in a place where I can't get out of this. I have no, and it was going to get worse. I just saw another 15 years of misery. And so I did something that I had heard about a couple times, but then I finally heard it and it made sense, and I did it. I just surrendered my life completely to my understanding of God. I thought, I screwed it up so bad, you could have it. And I like, what can be worse than me trying to control my life? I just said, you take it from here. So that was about 11 years ago, and I haven't had a bad day since. And it was miraculous that everything got resolved quickly after that. And so I started paying attention. I'm like, whoa, I like this. And there was no sacrifice involved. It was like, what do you want me to do? What do you want me to do? I kept saying that. What do you want me to do? You know, I created Voyage to Betterment after I was introduced to healers. And there were like these miraculous healers that I met. Larry Steele, Atherton Drenth, Laurie Wilson, that are all in Guelph. And I just wanted everybody to know about that. These capacities exist. They're miraculous. You can go see them. So I made a movie about it. I spent about $500,000 making the movie. This is a few years before kids could make like a high definition movie with their iPhone. So I remember I was like, after a few years of this, and I was traveling around, and I was doing film screenings everywhere, and I was doing a couple in Sedona and Prescott, and I climbed up to the top of a mountain, and I'm like, God, is this what you really want me to do? And it was Cathedral Mountain, and when I said that, God, this big yellow butterfly floated by. 2 hawks flew overhead. Everything went into silence. From across the way, a hummingbird came and just floated right there. Now this all happened within 2 seconds. Is this what you want me to do? 2 seconds, it all happened. So like, all right. If I have to spend every dime I have, so be it. So when we truly surrender, are we willing to do what we're being called to do? So, fast forward to just a couple of years ago, and I was introduced to all sorts of healing work. And I started doing it. I was a closet healer. And I remember a buddy of mine, he actually lived here at the house for a while, and he had multiple sclerosis, and his legs weren't moving. And this is years ago. And I said, buddy, I just learned this Reiki thing. If you want, I could try it on you. And I put my hands on him, and he fell asleep. And after about 5 minutes, he was snoring. And I said, God, if this is doing any good, can you show me a sign? And he had no use of his legs. He was in a wheelchair. And all of a sudden, his legs start jumping off the table. There was power there. I went around, I grabbed his legs, and there was so much power, I couldn't hold down onto his legs. I was like, holy. He was diagnosed by 4 medical doctors with multiple sclerosis. Yet his legs were fine when he was sleeping. So then, this was all new to me, so a thought occurred to me, he doesn't have multiple sclerosis. He has the belief that he has multiple sclerosis. It didn't, I told him everything that happened. It didn't really do anything. I didn't know enough back then. I didn't learn enough to know what to do. The timing wasn't appropriate. Everything synchronized with everything happening. So he passed away a few years ago, and his condition slowly deteriorated from there. And a few years ago, fast forward now, my closest buddy, who I grew up playing soccer with, this guy was always fit. He ran the Boston Marathon like 6 years ago. And then all of a sudden he was diagnosed with cancer, and just after a year he passed away. And cancer was coming up high on the radar screen for me. So I was this closet healer. I'd seen all sorts of things. I'd been doing work for free on people. I experienced all sorts of things, but cancer scared me. You know, if somebody's not scared of the word cancer, I mean, it's just scary for us, right? Just the word itself. And that's what I was for years. But it kept coming up on the radar screen. And then one day, I was going for a workout, so I drove from here, and I go for a workout. I thought I was going for a workout at Xanadu, which is a minute away, and I ended up driving right in front of St. Andrew's Church. I wasn't planning on it. It was just kind of mindless. And I was there, and I'm like, am I supposed to go here? And so I walked in, and there was like this guest speaker, Riley, speaking. I'd never seen him before. And it was like he was talking directly to me. He's like, you've been trying to reach the world. You've been trying to reach the masses with the movie and everything. He's like, start small. Start with a small group. He's like, Jesus only had 12. You see what happened? I went, oh, that's brilliant. Like the whole thing, it was like he was talking to me. And I was like, God, what does this have to do with cancer? And then he said something really interesting. He said, how many people, and there are 500 people in this church, how many people have been affected by the death of a loved one due to cancer? And here my buddy had just passed away. I stood up, and so did everybody else in the church. Everybody was affected. Another friend of mine had recently passed. She was a school teacher. 2,000 people came to her service. It affects everybody. And I said, well, God, you know what? If you want me to, I'm willing. I'm willing. But you just have to train me. And 6 months later, I started a group right away, and Dave was part of the group. And we started doing the training, and I told everybody what I'm being trained for, and that everybody was part of it. Everybody here is part of it. But I didn't have the training yet, the full training. And then 6 months after I started that, I was in Sedona. I got a treatment from a healer that came from Italy. It was just a weird set of circumstances. It was amazing. So I said, do you teach what you do? And he said, yes. I'm going to be teaching in Italy. So I went to Italy. I had no idea, but this guy was world renowned for helping people heal of terminal cancer. So I trained. And then I was ready. And then when a friend called and said, hey, I was just diagnosed, I said, thank you, God. And she's well now.